Hey bag ladies and bag dudes, today I'm going to be talking about the Creative Options plastic containers, colored vinyl, new fabric from Rifle Paper Company for cotton and steel, Quiltfolk magazine. My demonstration will be for how to add a divider to any bag, and I have a great giveaway at the end. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Social Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everyone, happy Sunday. Thanks so much for spending your Sunday evening with me, or if you're watching the recording, thanks so much for making time during the week. I saw Laura's comments on Facebook before we started, and she said, I told my husband I needed to be home from camping just in time for the show. I made it. I'm so happy that you made it just in time. I see Tanya Lee checking in also, Richard. So welcome to Social Sunday, everyone. Just a friendly reminder, just about everything that I talk about during Social Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but rather just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. And if you're interested in finding out more about any of the fabrics, tools, notions, projects, or books that I talk about during Social Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more that way. And I'm also giving you a friendly reminder. I wanted to remind everyone in the shows leading up to our shipping break, we do have a shipping break from August 17th through 27th. So what that means is during that time, no physical items will ship from the shop. If you are placing orders for PDF patterns or videos during that time, make sure to place those in a separate order from other things like fabrics and notions, because we want to make sure we get you those PDF patterns and videos instantly, but they won't be delivered instantly unless they're placed in a separate order from your physical items. Also, because of the shipping break, we will not have any live shows on August 19th and 21st. Since we'll be out of town, I'm not sure what the situation will be regarding the internet on our cell phones, and because of that, we've decided to just skip those two shows. So that's August 19th and 21st. It really kills me to miss a live show, but I feel like it's necessary this one time. We will have a meetup in Franklin, Tennessee on August 19th at the Frothy Monkey at 7 p.m. So in case you live in Tennessee or in that area, we hope to see you there in person on August 19th. All right, so kicking off, my favorite part of the show is the notion of the week, and this is, I don't know if it's exactly considered a notion, but I picked up these containers recently at Costco. So I got a set of 5 of these Creative Options containers. I don't remember how much they were. They might have been around $40, but you certainly can purchase these individually. I think they're originally intended for scrapbooking papers, but they sort of fit my needs for what I needed to store inside them. So they've got these sort of closures on the front, and I'm using mine to store my quilt blocks. So I'm participating in the Summer Sampler 2018 Quilt Along. The container holds items that are 12 inches by 12 inches, but my blocks are a little bit bigger. I don't mind them being crunched a little bit in the front of the block, so that's fine. I really needed these containers because I had nowhere to store the blocks, and so I was sort of stacking them on the ground, which is not a great idea for keeping them safe and clean. So I'm glad I have these containers. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the other 4 containers, but I always have way too many things in the sewing room, so I'm not too afraid of finding uses for the other ones. So I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. What do you use to store your UFOs? So by UFO, I mean unfinished objects. I'm sure we all have things that are unfinished. Perhaps you're working on a project and you get distracted by another project, or maybe like me, you're working on a quilt along and it's a once a week type of a thing. So let me know in the comments, how do you store your UFOs, your unfinished projects? Perhaps you have a special shelf in your sewing room. Maybe you have some sort of container system like I just got, or maybe you just kind of move things around like I was doing previously. So let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to know how you're storing your projects that you're in the middle of. All right, so I didn't get any sewing done this past week, but I did cut out a bunch of fabric for some videos that we're hoping to shoot really soon. In case you missed my first Friday sew-in, my live show this past Friday, I asked the same question on the show, but I wanted to ask it again because I'm on the brink of cutting out the fabric for the Lilium laptop bag. I wanted to make a laptop bag for myself. And so I'm sort of stumped on these 2 canvas fabrics from Rifle Paper Company. So this is one option right here, and on the live show, the ladies that were sewing along with me or chatting along with me live seem to like this light colored fabric better, or do you like the dark colored fabric? So just let me know in the comments, light or dark, what's your favorite? I was sort of leaning toward the dark one, but everyone said they liked the light one on the live show. So I'm really curious to see what you think, and I'm probably going to cut these out either tonight after the show or tomorrow morning as soon as I wake up, because they're really pretty fabrics and I can't wait to cut into them. New fabric in the stash. I've added a few new things. The first thing that I want to show you is this colored vinyl from my friend Natalie. More on Natalie in a couple minutes, but she has these new clear vinyls in her shop. Well, they're clear, you can see through, they're not exactly clear, but you can see through them, and they are available in different colors. I picked up this purple, I think it's about 10 gauge for this one, and I also purchased this pink one, and this one's a little bit thicker. I believe this one's 12 gauge, but Natalie's got a bunch of colors in her shop. I also noticed there's yellow, orange, green. There's some other items as well that you might be interested in, as similar to this kit for making an easy zipper pouch. So in these kits, you've got 2 pre-cut pieces of the colored vinyl, a zipper, you just need to add a couple scraps of fabric, and then you have a cute zipper pouch to work on. So Natalie's Etsy shop is linked to in the description. It's So Hungry Hippie. You might already follow Natalie on social media, but if you don't, you might want to check that out too, because her feed is a lot of fun. She works on tons of projects, and she's an incredibly fast sewist, so she's always got something new that she's posting on her social media. I'm going to slide over to this other camera and show you some new fabrics that I picked up. These are designed by, I showed you these just a second ago, but I have some more. These are designed by Rifle Paper Company for cotton and steel, and her new fabric line is called English Gardens, so that's what this particular one was for. These are both canvases, and I really love the bright colors, and most of these, actually I think all of the ones that I purchased are floral. So I didn't purchase the whole line. Like I said last Sunday, I'm sort of running out of space, so I had to kind of control myself and rein it in a little bit. Some of the fabrics that I purchased are quilting cottons, like these 2 with these really small floral prints. I thought I'd pick these up for linings to go along with some of the other Rifle Paper Company fabrics that I purchased. Oh, here's a blue one too. So I purchased these in 3 different colorways. I think there was one with a blush pink background as well. Here's another canvas. It's the same print as the light colored one that I showed you before, but in the dark green background. Here's another canvas from a previous line that I picked up because I don't already own some of this, and I thought it would be nice, and I like the beige background of this one. And here's another quilting cotton. I thought, again, this one for a lining, and I actually picked up a rayon as well. So once in a while I will use a rayon fabric for a bag. Rayons are traditionally better used for garments, but I find that if I interface my rayon fabric with a bit of Michaelanne Shape Flex first, which is a fusible woven interfacing, the Shape Flex takes out the stretch and drape of the fabric, and it makes it usable for bag making. And then I go ahead and attach this fabric to my interfacing that I would use for the exterior of a bag. In most cases, that's foam interfacing. So again, this is Rifle Paper Company. The newest line is called English Gardens, but you can find online plenty of the previous lines as well if you like this style. And I linked to the shop Fabric Bub in the description, because that's where I purchased, I believe, almost all of those prints right there that I just talked about. Okay, Danny's favorite part of the show. We'd like to invite you to let us know right now in the comments if you're a bag lady or a bag dude. So go ahead and type that up in the comments right now. I really love the bag making community. I didn't want to say too much about this, but I had a few people email me this week because they wanted to send anonymous gifts in the form of gift certificates to certain members of the Facebook groups, from our So Sweetness Facebook group. So I'm continually amazed at the kindness and the support in the Facebook group, and I really love the community that the terms bag lady and bag dude have sort of created as far as sewing and bag making. So thanks so much for being part of the group, and if you're not already a member, That link is in the description, and I hope you'll join us over there very soon. All right, so speaking of So Hungry Hippie, which the lady of the colored vinyls, but my friend Natalie lives in Wisconsin, and she visited with her whole family on Friday and Saturday. So her husband and 2 daughters. The daughters are close in age to my own children, so we had a lot of fun. Danny's going to post a picture on the screen right now of our trip yesterday. We went downtown to Chicago to the Shedd Aquarium and also to Navy Pier, and we did an architectural boat tour. So that's Natalie in the blue dress, her daughter Mia in the purple shirt, and that's her daughter Ruby in the pink. And then, of course, William and Violet are over there too. The husbands were not in the photo. They took the photos for us, but it was a lot of fun. We went wall climbing on Friday, and since we took the train downtown and the bus, we were out and about all day. Surprisingly, it was a cool 95 degrees downtown Chicago. I thought it might be a little bit cooler because of the lake. And we actually had in Chicago over the weekend Lollapalooza, which was a music festival. And it was funny while we were traveling downtown. I thought, because we could kind of hear the music in the background, the thumping and the singing to a certain extent. And I remember thinking, gosh, I hope all those kids are staying hydrated. It's funny because I've been to Lollapalooza before, but it's been probably about 12 or 13 years. And certainly when I was 24, the first thing on my mind would not have been, am I staying hydrated? But it was super hot this weekend, and I hope everyone was doing okay as far as drinking enough water that went to Lollapalooza at least. I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever been to Illinois or to Chicago, maybe the Chicago area? I do get emails once in a while from people that are visiting this area, and they want to know what the best local quilt shops are. So my favorite shops, there's not a whole lot of quilt shops actually in Chicago, but my favorites are Second City Quilting, that's in Chicago. Oak Fabrics is also in Chicago, and we have some great stores out in the suburbs like Quilter's Destination and Thimble. So lots to do in Chicago, either sewing related or not sewing related. So my book review for this week is not a book, but a magazine that sort of reads like a book. So I'm going to step over to the side camera and show you. It is Quiltfolk magazine. And this magazine, but it really is printed and looks like a book, is edited by Mary Fons, also a fellow Chicagoan. And the great thing about this particular, I'm going to have a hard time calling it a magazine now because it really does look like a book, is that there's no sewing projects in it, but it's all stories and photographs of quilts. And so each issue is centered on a specific, there's Mary Fons right there in the photo. Each issue is centered on a specific state in the United States. So issue 7 is Louisiana. So these are all quilts, quilt makers, and locations in Louisiana. And there are, let me see how many pages. There's almost 200 pages in this, so lots of inspiration and stories. And this one was my favorite. There's a particular story near the beginning about the quilting queens of Hurricane Katrina. So these were some ladies that after Hurricane Katrina occurred, they were devastated at all the situations that they saw other people were in, people that were displaced especially. So they decided, what can we do? There was a center set up for 3 months to help clothe and feed people. So there was a lot of extra clothing left over after the 3 months was up, where after they were helping people, and they were not already quilters, but they didn't want to throw the clothing away, and they were thinking, what could they do with these clothes instead? So they decided to make quilts with them. And so the Quilting Queens were formed, and here's some of their favorite quilts, the ladies in the Quilting Queens. Here's some of the quilts. A lot of quilts were made, donated, fundraising done. They even made a quilt for Oprah. So I really loved this story, and I loved that they mentioned in the story after Hurricane Katrina, a lot of the women were experiencing depression, and quilting and that community that they had formed helped them through it. So I really loved reading the story. There's lots of great heartwarming stories in this book as well, such as the next one. Susan Roach, who is a PhD, she studies folk arts and folk traditions, including quilts and quilt making. So not only traditional quilts, but she's done research and published papers on modern quilts and quilt making as well. And so these are the types of stories that you can find in Quiltfolk. So if you're looking for new patterns or projects to make, this isn't the magazine for you, but if you like reading inspiring stories and seeing photographs of quilts, historical wise, or even new quilts, I think you'll really enjoy this. So like I said, this is almost 200 pages. There's lots of great stories inside. There was another one that I wanted to show you, and I should have bookmarked it. There's several artists featured as well, such as Clementine Hunter. And here's some of the quilts that she's made and the stories about what life was like. I just found them to be really interesting. Here's some bikers that also quilt. My other bike is a sewing machine. I thought that was pretty clever, and I liked the paper piece bike at the top. And then it was just really interesting reading all the stories and seeing the quilts, and the photography is beautiful. So I really like the style of this particular magazine because the pages are not glossy. Sometimes I have a problem with things that are glossy, and it sort of takes away from the artwork, but this is just beautifully printed and published, and I really enjoyed it. I believe this is a quarterly magazine. Let me skip to the other artists that I wanted to show you. I believe this is quarterly, so you can find these at your local quilt shop, as well as if you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe from the Quiltfolk website. Here's the other artist that I wanted to show you, Anna Williams. She was born in 1927, and some of her quilts were showcased. Some quilts are in museums or in private collections. And as you can see, she was a scrappy quilter. And there was a quote that I wanted to read from her. When I saw her quilts for the first time, I was dumbstruck because she hadn't used a ruler, and I just thought, why did I think quilts had to be made with a ruler? Why did everything have to be straight? The fact that the line could be sensuous or lyrical just blew me out of the water. Everything she did was with scissors, so that's why the lines were crooked, because she just sort of cut the way she felt. And I really like that in regards to not necessarily having to have rules for everything that we do. And I certainly feel like I follow that. And this other quote from her, Anna Williams, I look at quilts that other people have done, and I know they are different from mine, and I just go on. So we don't have to be perfect or compare ourselves to anyone else. We should just make what we want to make and be comfortable with the beauty that we've made. So there's plenty more inspiration in the book. I could go on and on about it, but this is Quiltfolk magazine. Issue 7 was the Louisiana issue. Okay, so I've prepared a demonstration for you tonight. Last week we did how to add a side pocket to every bag, and people seem to really like that a lot because it was adaptable to most any bag. If you wanted to add a side pocket, you could. So for tonight, adding the divider, I pulled out the Lilium laptop bag, and I've got my large and small version right here. Let me show you. The small comes with a divider in the pattern, but I'm going to show you this technique so that you can add it to another bag. So as you can see, there's a yellow zipper on the inside, and that's the divider. So you can make either a divider with a zipper like I'm going to show you in tonight's demonstration, and I'll also give you some tips how to just make a divider without the zipper in case you don't want to go through the extra steps to have that zipper, but it would be handy if you feel like putting it in. So what you'll need to add the divider into any bag is, first you'll need the pattern piece for the front and the back of the bag. And let me show you one thing before Danny cuts to the side view. So adding the side pocket to any bag, I should sort of put an asterisk on that. You'll need to be working with a bag pattern that has a side panel. So basically the side wraps around the bottom and comes out on the other side like the Baker Street bag. The Baker Street bag is actually the pattern that I'll be working off the demo for tonight. It'll also work for bags that have a zipper on the top of the bag, like the Renegade bag. This also has a side panel that starts underneath the zipper, so I consider this the bottom panel, but it still wraps around. So you could still have a divider from a little bit lower than this area over here. Still plenty of space to have a divider in the bag, but you want to look for a bag pattern that you may already have to add a divider to that has a side panel, just to make it easier so that you can follow this demo. Okay, so here's my main panel pattern piece from the Baker Street bags, and this is what is used in my pattern to cut the front and the back of the bag. And we're going to use this pattern piece to cut our divider pieces. So this pattern piece already has a folding line for adding pockets to the lining, and these are slip stitch pockets. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that same line for cutting out my fabric pieces for the divider. Not to worry if your main panel piece does not have a line like that. I would suggest measuring down at least 2 inches from the top of the bag of your main panel piece, and that will ensure that you stay out of the top of the bag seams, and if there's any magnetic snaps, you'll clear that area in the top of the bag. So I went ahead and folded my piece as shown, and I went ahead and cut out my fabric pieces because this pattern piece is on the fold. I went ahead and cut out 4 pieces. If you're planning on putting the zipper in, if you'd like to skip the zipper, you'll need 2 pieces of fabric instead. So 4 for the zipper, 2 without the zipper. You will want to interface your fabric pieces with Michaelanne Shape Flex if you're using quilting cotton. I chose a canvas fabric for this demonstration so I could skip the Michaelanne Shape Flex, but just know that you should add that interfacing if you're using quilting cotton. Okay, so the next step in the pattern is to cut out 2 zipper tabs, which we'll be adding to either end of the zipper, and you can go ahead and cut those tabs at 3 inches by 1.5 inches, and you'll need 2 of these tabs. You're just going to go ahead and press both of the tabs, kind of like double fold bias tape. So you'll press each tab wrong sides together in half, open out, and then you'll press each of the short ends in toward the center and then repress, and you'll do that with both of those tab pieces. Okay, you'll need a number 3 zipper, which is also known as a dress skirt zipper, and you'll need to trim the zipper 3/4 of an inch less wide than the top edge of your fabric piece. So my piece of fabric measures 12 inches along this top edge. So I cut my zipper to 11 1/4 of an inch. You want it to be less long because you don't want the zipper to go from one end to the other. Okay, so the next piece that I've prepared is I've got my fabric piece with my zipper sewn to it. So I went ahead and inserted each end of the zipper after I trimmed it to the correct size in the creases of the zipper tab, and then I top stitched this edge of the zipper as shown right here. You can see on both ends, and then I went ahead and trimmed the fabric even with the zipper. So after my zipper was ready to go, I placed it face down, so the right side of the zipper against the right side of the fabric, and I stitched from one end to the other using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, you'll add a second piece of that divider pocket fabric, right sides together with the first one. So I'm going to go ahead and place this second fabric right sides together. And then what I actually did was I flipped to the wrong side of the first piece, and I stitched using 1/4 inch from one end to the other, and that will secure both of those pieces together, and that zipper will be sandwiched in between. Okay, the next step is to press both of those fabrics wrong sides together. So as you can see here, they're wrong sides together, and I used a blue thread so you can see it well, but I top stitched this finished edge using 1/8 inch seam allowance. You're going to do the same thing with the other long edge of the zipper. So as you can see, I've got the first 2 pocket pieces on the bottom over here, and I've got the second 2 on the top, and the top stitching is present both below and above the zipper. So what you're going to do now with this piece is I'm just going to go ahead and fold it down so the right side of the zipper is facing outward. I'm going to line up all of my raw edges and just kind of press it down, and you're just going to top stitch all the way around the outer edge using 1/8 inch seam allowance just to secure all the edges, so when we go to add the side panel, things are not shifting around when we're trying to attach everything. If you're not using the zipper, if you're just going to go ahead and have the 2 fabrics, you'll just stitch those right sides together along the top edge, press, and top stitch. So that's really easy, kind of just like a slip pocket. Okay, so now we need to do a little bit of adjusting In your pattern instructions, you'll want to look at the measurements for the side panel. So in the Baker Street bag, the side panel is 5 inches wide. Because we're going to be cutting a slit right down the middle, we need to add the seam allowance. So we need to make it a little bit wider. So according to the Baker Street bag, like I said, this is 5 inches wide. I've got a sample piece right here. The green fabric is cut to the dimensions as given in the Baker Street pattern. However, we need a little bit more to cover that seam allowance. So you need to cut your piece for the side panel 1/2 inch wider. So the orange piece is cut correctly for this demonstration. It's cut 1/2 inch wider, so it's 5.5 inches wide. You'll keep the length the exact same as in the pattern. And you'll need to look at your instructions because some patterns, such as the Baker Street bag, require you to do a little bit of cutting before sewing the sides to the front and back of the bag. So we need to take care of that first before we add that divider piece. So in the Baker Street bag, I have you cut, draw lines 1 inch in and 9 inches down. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that just so that you recall that we need to prepare the side panel first before we sew that divider in place. So I know a lot of you have made the Baker Street bag before, so you might be familiar with this step in the pattern. But I'm just going to go ahead and cut these 2 little pie pieces out, and this creates some shaping for the bag so that it's not, I guess, a boxy looking bag. Okay, so I'm going to cut these 2 little wedge shapes out, and then I'll share with you how to cut the fabric in half so that we can get that divider sewn in place. Okay, so now that I have my side panel piece prepared, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line straight down the middle and cut it in half. And remember, we added that 1/2 inch seam allowance so that, we added that 1/2 inch so that we're covered using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to measure with my ruler, and I'm just going to draw a line right down the middle. And I'm going to cut this side panel piece in half. We need both of the pieces so that we could sew that divider piece in place so that it's right in the middle of the bag. Okay, so here I've got the both halves. We're going to sew this to the divider along the straight edge. So the edge that we cut, this is the edge that we need to sew. So if I lay my pieces out here, the divider is going right down the middle. Okay, so I've gone ahead and prepared my divider piece. As you'll notice, the zipper's right on the top over here. And I've already sewn 1 piece in place. So I went ahead and used a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I feel that a 1/4 inch seam allowance is adequate for this particular demonstration. To line this divider piece up, I measured and marked, and you can kind of see my markings still showing up. But before I sewed it in place, I measured the center of the side panel piece, and I also measured the center of the divider, and you can see my markings on the other side. That's to make sure that you have it sewn right in the center, and as you'll see from my top corners, you want to have extra fabric showing, and this will continue on to the top of the bag. Okay, so I've got my second half of the divider remaining, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to pin that in place. So again, you want to make sure that you're pinning that straight edge, so you have both of the straight edges pinned to the divider. And I've already pre-marked my center. And I'm just going to go ahead and lay that out and pull some of my wonder clips so that I can pin that in place. Okay, so I'm going to put a few clips along the bottom straight edge of the divider, and then we'll just be pinning outward. So you're not going to have the top edge at the divider. It's got to be up toward the top, and you can actually pin these 2 top edges together just to make sure everything is easing in correctly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pin the rest of that in place. Before, when we sewed the first side panel in place, I stopped sewing at the top of the divider, but since now we're sewing that second half of the divider in place, we'll be stitching all the way to the top. And again, you'll want to have Michaelanne shape flex on all of these pieces if you're using quilting cotton, and I purposely chose a canvas fabric so that I could skip one step in my preparation for tonight and skip that shape flex. Okay, so let me just finish pinning the left-hand side. And again, this pinned edge is going to be sewn using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So after this step is sewn, your side panel will be finished, and you can go ahead and continue on sewing the bag per the pattern instructions of whatever pattern you're working on. So your side panel has been modified to have that divider on in the middle of it. Let me go back to the front screen and show you again what that Lilium laptop looks like with the divider in it. Okay, so here's the front of the screen. And there's that zipper divider. I use that same method.
You're blocking your mic.
Oh, sorry, Danny. I use that same method that I just shared with you for attaching the divider in the middle of the Lilium laptop bag. And again, like I mentioned, if you want to skip the zipper, you'll just be sewing your 2 bits of fabric right sides together instead. And it's really handy because then you can have certain things in one side of your purse or bag, such as your cell phone. Maybe you want your wallet on the other side. And it just keeps things nicely organized inside of your bag. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. If you enjoy our live videos like Sewcial Sunday, if you're watching on Facebook, I'd like to invite you now to share this video with your other sewing friends by hitting the share button. Regardless if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you could hit the like button, which looks like a little graphic of a thumbs up. Shares and likes helps us out so much because YouTube and Facebook look at videos that get a lot of shares and likes, and they consider sharing that video with other people that might be interested in it but might have not seen the videos from that creator before. So the likes and shares help us out a lot, and thank you so much for doing that. All right, so the winner of last week's giveaway was Jessica Ann, so congratulations to Jessica. I already got an email back from Jessica when I contacted her on social media earlier today. So congratulations to you on winning that great prize. I'm going to answer some questions live, so if you have questions for me, let me know in the comments, and then we'll have this week's giveaway later after the question and answer session. So my husband Danny's going to put some questions on the screen, and I'll get to as many as I can. And if I don't get to your question, feel free to join us on our Tuesday shows, Ask Sarah, and you can ask your question there as well. Laura says the sound block, that makes me chuckle every time.
Tell them why you got a sound block. What previous to that? What happened?
So I have, Danny's laughing. Maybe you want to, this is kind of embarrassing, but he's really cracking up. So when I was holding that purse in front of my body, this is what you're laughing at, right, Danny?
I'm laughing because I didn't switch from this to the front shot, and you hit me with the bag.
Oh, okay. So a thing that you didn't see after I finished that demonstration for the divider, and we came back and I showed you once again what the divider looked like on the inside, I glanced over and I did say, all right, I'm going to be switching over to the front camera so I can show you ... And I glanced over and I saw Danny looking at his cell phone, and he wasn't switching over to the front camera. So I grabbed the bag and I leaned over. He's sitting right there, and I hit him with the bag. He kind of started and he did switch the cameras then. But then when I hit him and I went to pull the bag back over to me, I held it in front of my chest, and I know you can't see, I'm sure when you watch other shows or maybe when you watch the news, you see a little mic clipped onto the person's shirt. Probably too much information, but I plug myself up so my mic's under my shirt, so when I hold things in front of my body, and I know it's happened in the past, but if I hold the bag in front of my body like that, it covers the mic and you can't hear me talking. So that's part of why Danny's laughing, I think. Hopefully I explained.
I was laughing because you hit me, and I thought it was
okay.
funny.
He said he was laughing because he hit me, because I hit him, and I thought he was laughing because of the mic thing. But anyway, all right, enough of that. Let's get on to some more questions. Oh, so embarrassing. Robin says it looks like a friction pen, and I'm guessing Colleen was actually asking what I was using for the demonstration. So I like using friction pens and Clover Choco for marking fabric. So I use friction pens for marking on areas of the fabric that won't be seen in the finished bag. So when I cut up my pattern pieces, I use friction pens. When I mark on the wrong side of the fabric or the edges of the fabric that won't be seen, that will be swallowed up by the seam, I use friction pens. They do normally go away or disappear with the heat of an iron, but depending on the fabric, some fabrics that I've used it on before, after the ink has ironed away, it leaves kind of like a ghostly trail of white on the fabric. So that's why I tend to not use this on an area of the bag that will be seen in the finished bag. However, if there is an area of the bag that you need to mark, say the front of the bag, maybe for adding straps, I like using Clover Choco in white. I do not recommend any of the other Clover Choco colors like pink, blue, there's gray, yellow. I've used those in the past and they don't brush away, but the white Choco brushes away just fine. So those are the two marking tools that I like to use, and as Robin mentioned, we stock both of those items in the Notions section of our shop. Tracy says, used my new boxing corner template today. Thank you so much. I'm glad that was helpful. We had two different types or styles of boxing corner templates. One was square, one was a triangle. Not that you're cutting out triangles for the corners of your pouches, but I showed two different methods. I think it was last Sunday for executing the boxed corners, which is, would be considered a boxed corner. Basically, it makes having the front and the back fabrics on the project makes it three-dimensional by the boxed corners. Debbie says, looking at the Kennedy bag, you tell us to do a buttonhole stitch, but you can't with the Juki. What is an alternative? So that's a great question. My Juki is straight stitch only, and it doesn't have different stitches like blanket stitches, buttonholes. It doesn't do that as well. You might consider using a fabric that you can cut and leave raw for the Kennedy bag for the buckles with the tongues that need the hole. So fabrics that you can leave raw are vinyl, leather, wool, cork fabric. So those are some other items. Danny's in big trouble tonight for not silencing his phone.
I think when you startled me, it threw me off.
So I'll give you some more suggestions when we get over to the Kennedy bag, but the easiest one would be to use items that you can cut and leave raw. Other than Shape Flex, any changes required to use canvas versus quilting cotton? So that's just my personal preference. When I'm using canvas fabric for a lining, I always skip the Shape Flex because most of the time I'm using quilting cotton, and adding Shape Flex to quilting cotton makes it similar in thickness to a canvas fabric, so that's why I would skip that for the lining. If I'm using it for the body of the bag, I would use the same interfacing as called for in the pattern, such as foam interfacing. It's just a little bit thicker, a little bit of extra thickness to go through your sewing machine, but nothing to be overly concerned about. That change is mostly just when I'm using it for lining fabrics like the demonstration with the divider. That's in the lining of the bag. Okay, Karen says, just a quick reminder request, is the four bag video bundle scheduled for release this month and the new super bundle later in the fall, or do I have those reversed? So we don't have an exact date yet, but we're shooting for the 4-pack video bundle to be released at the very end of August. We have not shot those videos yet, so that's why we're shooting for the very end. We just need a little bit of extra time. The next set of minikins, which I think is what you meant by the super bundle, the new minikins bundle is coming out at the end of October. We want to release it at the end of October so that you have time to use those patterns if you wish for making gifts for Christmas or the holidays. So that's why we tried to schedule it then. And our new set of minikins will have an extra bonus pattern. So there will be 13 videos and patterns in the next set. Melissa says, making the Cumberland backpack and adding the outside pockets on the side, approximately how far down from the zipper panel do you place the pocket? That's a good question. I have my Cumberland backpack right out there, so I can't grab it because I'm mic'd up. As I told you where I put my mic, I can't take it off live. But if you want to email me after the show, I can be happy to get you a specific measurement for placing the pocket on the Cumberland backpack. You could probably place it maybe an inch down from the top of the bottom panel just to keep it out of the seam allowance, although it can go lower as well. So if you want to email me, I know you know my email address, but I'll just mention it for those of you who don't. My email is sarah@sewsweetness.com, and that's Sarah with no H. Another question, Sarah, throw whatever you need to, the show must go on. I like that comment, thank you. Kathy says, can you tell me if your pen has a fine or medium tip? So my friction pens are fine tip. I believe the measurement for the tips that I have is 0.7 millimeters. I'm pretty sure that's what the packaging said for the frictions that I use. Diane says, whip that man in line.
Seems like a lot of ladies.
Ooh, he should have been paying attention instead of looking. I believe he was watching videos on Instagram or something like that. Is that right, Danny?
No, I was checking our live feeds to make sure it was looking all right.
You were not checking our live feeds.
How can you see from your view?
Because it didn't look like me on your screen when I looked over.
It was the mat, it wasn't you. That's
All right, just put another question up there for me. Evelyn says, I'm trying to cut out a dress and watch at the same time. It's difficult to lay out with the fan on. I turn to watch you and I have pattern pieces flying around. I totally understand what you're saying. During the summer, we have to have our fans on, and I have my notebook with papers, and sometimes they're ruffling with the fan, and I have to put weights on my notebook, like my scissors or my pens, so I totally understand what you're going through. Although I think tissue paper for garment patterns is a little bit more finicky as far as having the fan on than regular paper. Kathy says, can I use a 30-inch zipper on the Amethyst project bag? You can, but you would have to modify the tab, and if you use that short of a zipper, your tab piece might start creeping around through the sides of the bag. So on my Amethyst project bag, I don't have one handy, but the tab is sort of centered on the back panel of the bag so that when you open the lid, it sort of opens more or less flat. But yeah, if you absolutely have to use a shorter zipper, I think the pattern calls for 40-inch zipper. If you have to use 30-inch zipper, you'll have to increase the length of the tab. Nancy says, who won the July Minikins Jet Set Cinched Bag Challenge? Karina was the winner. I don't have it written down in this particular notebook, but Karina, I think it was number 24 in the list of all the entries. That was the winner. I announced it in the Facebook group, and also I emailed Karina her $100 gift certificate. That was her prize for the July challenge. Tracy says, Sarah, thank you, and I want to thank my generous and thoughtful angels. So Tracy was gifted gift certificates from actually 2 different sewing angels. Sometimes people see things in the Facebook group. I don't want to go too into detail because they want it to be anonymous, but sometimes people read comments in the Facebook group, personal stories, whatever. And this week we had 3 anonymous sewing angels email me wanting to give 2 people gift certificates. They had their own reasons, and we talked about it privately, but that's what happened in the Facebook group this week. Laura says, seriously, I love that you 2 do this show. I'm happy I discovered it. I look forward to it all week. I'm so glad you're here. Like I said, it was almost devastating to know that we would have to miss 2 shows this month because I love doing them and I hate to miss, but we really love doing the live shows, and we're glad that you come back week after week, and I try my best to come up with different little bits of information that I can show you each time, like the divider that we showed this evening on Sewcial Sunday. Gloria said, hey Sarah, I did the I Spy pouch for my 9-year-old today. Came out fantastic, but next time I won't use foam too bulky. Yeah, the foam does add a little bit of extra bulk. You can certainly omit the foam in the I Spy pouch and it would be just as beautiful of a project. I tend to like the foam and the structure that it gives, but you could for sure leave that out and just use Shape Flex if you prefer. That would definitely be a great option. Mary Lee says, is the bag divider sewed to the lining? Isn't it floppy? So it is sewed to the lining. That little, maybe Danny can move the comments off the screen for just a second. So the divider that I sewed, this is the divider sewed to the side panel. When you sew it to the front and the back of the bag, which is what you'll do after you follow the instructions in my demonstration. The finished bag, because the divider is sewn to the front and the back of the bag, it's not flopping around or anything. I'll try to hold this up again. So here's the divider in the inside of the bag. So it's Danny says I'm blocking my mic. Sorry, Danny. So the divider's in the middle of the bag, and once you put the items in the purse, it's not wavy or floppy or anything. It's because it's the length of the bag, and it's taut. Thank you, Danny. Sometimes I struggle for the right words, and that's why he's here. Amber says, I posted in the group to seek out help. I'm trying to purchase the airplane bag but having a hard time. Is it better to send you an email to help resolve this issue? Feel free to email me anytime you have an issue that you need me to personally help you with, such as making a purchase, which sounds like that would be the right time to send an email. My email is sarah@sewsweetness.com, Sarah with no H. I answer emails pretty much every day, so I answered usually in the morning. When I first wake up is the time that I like to answer the emails the most. And I answer as many as I can, if not all of the ones in my inbox. I do the best I can. with any technical issues, shopping cart issues. If you have a question about, if you're in the middle of the pattern and you need help, you can ask me an email, or you can ask in the Facebook group if it's something more general, like my interfacing was wrinkly or my zipper was wavy or something general. You can ask either an email or in the Facebook group. Nikki says, I went out with friends the other night and someone showed me a picture of a men's store in Chicago where the whole 2-story wall was filled with vintage singers. I don't think the store is open anymore though. So there's sort of an outlet mall near my house. Do you remember what the store was called, Danny? There's a clothing store, and they have in the window of the store, so they have the entrance doors in the middle and on both sides glass windows, and on either side they must have 100 vintage sewing machines on shelves. Like, there's so many machines. I know, I think I took a picture of the shop maybe a year ago. I'll try to post it maybe next week on the live show if I remember, but it is not a sewing related store, it's a clothing related store. In my opinion, the clothing was a little bit pricier than what I could afford to purchase, but the store was certainly awesome and photo worthy for sure. Linda says, what bags do you recommend for the ladies' face in Tula Pink? So I've seen a wide array of projects being posted in the Facebook group. Who posted the reason to bag today? Was it Nikki, Danny? Do you remember who that was?
No, it was Surehouse.
Jessica posted in the Facebook group today a reason to bag that she made with the Tula Pink De La Luna face in the middle. I saw someone made a Jet Set cinched bag, which is a quite small bag. Even though the face is large, it fit on the front of the bag. I had a friend make a wallet.
Right on your door.
Airplane bag, hyacinth bag would be great. Sloan travel bag. So I've seen a Renegade bag is another one that I've seen posted in the Facebook group. So there's a lot of different projects that you could use that really large scale print on. Virginia said, what do you use to store your Peltex stabilizer, Shapeflex foam, etc.? Do you stand them upright in a trash can or other types? So I buy mine by the bolt. I've actually got one leaning up against my table. I need a better storage solution. I used to keep these on my bookshelf, but then when I got too much fabric, I had to clear out the interfacing to make more room for fabric. So I buy it by the bolt, and I feel like it's easier to store on a shelf or bookcase when it's on the bolt. If I had interfacing that was not on the bolt, which I actually have some underneath my desk, I keep it folded as if it were on a bolt, and I have mine under my desk right now. So I used to have a printer under my desk, and I have a little stand where my printer used to be, and so the interfacing sort of stacked up over there. So I don't have a good solution, but if you can keep it on the bolt or just cut a piece of cardboard to simulate a bolt, that would be a good option as well. Diana says, my husband is listening and he says you two have good banter, which is a sign of a great relationship. That's good to hear. I know now that we work together full time, we certainly need each other, and we need to be happy with each other so that we're not doing the videos and, you know, coming on live and I'm mad and he's mad. That wouldn't work out so well. So yeah, thank you for noticing. Arlene says, I'd really like to see a men's messenger bag pattern. I actually had an email today asking for a men's bag, which I feel like men's bag in my head means messenger bag, and I know I need to get on that and make crossbody bag too. I know I need to make a more masculine version of a messenger bag, because like my Lilium laptop bag, I feel like the flap is more feminine looking. Danny, would you agree that this is more feminine looking?
I guess depends on your fabric. I think
if it was like black fabric, do you think it would look more masculine?
I think it was like leather, like gray
okay.
Black leather or something. Well,
anyway, I feel like I need to do a few more gender neutral projects, so I will try my best. I have to finish up with the Minikins, and then it's definitely on my list for.
They're asking about Minikin of the month.
Manly bags.
More lunch.
Danny said there were questions in the comments about the Minikins challenge for August. In case you missed it, I did post it in the Facebook group and in the newsletter, but the Minikins challenge for August is the morsel lunch bag. I chose that one because a lot of kids are heading back to school this month. Mine are not going back till I think September 5th, but I know a lot of others are. And you can find the entry page for the Minikins challenge on my blog, which is sewsweetness.com/blog. All my blog posts are there, and including the one for the August Minikins challenge. Glorimar says, by the way, congratulations to I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I know we've talked a lot in messages before. Aleli, I hope that's right. I'm sure it's not though. On their first bag, I saw the tweet this morning, pretty bag, I live for that rose gold. So I posted her very first bag on our social media this morning. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. She used rose gold cork fabric from our shop, and she also modified the strap. So she made an adjustable side strap, and for a first bag, it was super brilliant. My first bag did not look half as good as that. I'm not sure after I was sewing bags for a year if my, bags then looked just as good as that. So it was a great job, and congratulations, and we always love to see first bags being posted. Just a question, does anyone know if there is such a thing as natural foam sew and interfacing out there, which is rubber made from rubber tree sap? I know they make it for upholstery. I actually don't know the answer to this question, but if anybody does know, be sure to leave it in the comments, and if Danny sees it come up, he can post it on the screen before we get off live. AJ says, can you demo ironing a bag next week? I do have that on my list. We are waiting for a new notion, so I can show that notion in regards to ironing as well as just plain ironing, but it's on my list. I'm guessing we'll get to that sometime in September for how to iron a bag. It's super important, and it makes the bags look really professional. I used your turning tool for the first time today. What a lifesaver for little tabs. Definitely is. I think you're probably talking about the fast turn tool, because we have two different turning tools. Let me just pull those out real quick. So we've got the precision turning tool, but for tabs, I'm pretty sure you use the fast turn tool. This is great not only for turning long tubes of fabric right side out, but also little tabs, because if you're sewing a little tab right side together, I don't think I have a bag with little tabs in here in the sewing room right now. If I did, I would show you. But you could also stick this little corkscrew in your tab fabric, so you just kind of poke it out through the seam on one end of the tab and then pull it through the tube, and it pulls the tab right side out. It really helps, because in the past I used to turn my little tabs by hand, and it really does a number on your fingers, but using that fast turn tool is brilliant. And I use, they make the fast turn tool in several different sizes, but I use this size the most often. This is the 1/2 inch size. And we sell this in the shop too. If you're interested in it, it's in the notion section for turning fabrics right side out. Linda says, is there a way to make one of your large bags into a rolling bag like a suitcase? So in the past, I've kind of briefly looked into that. Obviously, it would you would need to purchase the little rollers. I see that they come with screws. I feel like I haven't felt up to the challenge yet, because I can feel it's going to be an interesting challenge, and also it concerns me the type of fabric used for a rolling bag like that. I feel like, based on other suitcases I've seen, I feel like it would have to be quite a heavy duty bag, maybe a canvas or a tapestry weight fabric to deal with all of the scuffs that you would encounter with a large travel bag. So I don't have a good answer for you. I've looked into it in the past. Maybe after the holidays I can give it a really good looking into and see what I can come up with. Natalie says that store is called All Saints. Yes, that's the store I was thinking of. All Saints is the store with the sewing machines in the windows. And that's Natalie's So Hungry Hippie of the colored vinyls. Mircha says, have you ever thought of having Danny do the show and Sarah do the media?
I don't think you guys are.
That's a good question. Number one, I do not know how to use the media. My children do, to some extent, Violet more than William. I don't know how to use any of that software. He would have to teach me, and no offense, Danny, I'm not sure if you have anything to teach everyone in regards to sewing, although you could get on here and talk about camera equipment maybe instead. Maybe give me a break one day and do the lighting and camera live. What do you think about that? He's giving me this thumbs down. Thank you so much for your compliments. This is motivating. I am moving in the right direction. Yeah, the Baker Street bag with the rose gold fabric was amazing. So if you missed it, click on over to our social media after the show and you can see the photo of her bag. It was posted on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of the above. Cheryl says, what brand of thread do you use for your bags? I like using Orifil 100% cotton, although polyester polyester thread is fine for bags as well. I like using Orifil 40 weight thread, although I have used 50 weight in the past and I didn't see anything odd or troubling happen with that. And again, cotton thread is fine for bags as well as polyester. Hot Becky says, oh, I missed the comment.
Oh, you didn't read it?
Sorry, you went by too quickly.
I'll get back.
Okay.
You can go read the next one though.
Tammy says, anything can be masculine just by changing the fabric. I think that could be the case with a lot of bags. Like I made the Cumberland backpack with a gray fabric and I felt like that made it masculine looking or at least gender neutral. Did you find it?
Sure did.
Hot Becky says, Sarah's the kind of person that I would want to be friends with. I want to have, it's so funny because 10, 15 years ago, even still in real life, I consider myself really not to be, I don't want to say friendless, but pretty close to being friendless. And now that I have sewing and I have all of you as part of our sewing community, I feel like I have a lot of friends, and sewing friends are the best. And when we went out with my sewing friend Natalie this past weekend, it was a lot of fun and our families got along well, and I always have sewing to fall back on as far as keeping the conversation going, I think.
Tell them how we went to Micro Center and spent more time than you guys at Joann's.
Oh, yeah, Danny's reminding me of a funny story that I could tell. So after we got back from the Shed Aquarium and we did an architectural boat tour on the way back, the guys, the two husbands, wanted to stop at a computer and electronics store, sort of a man's playground. So there's actually, next to this computer store is a Joann's, like a super Joann's. So my friend Natalie and I went in the Joann's. I felt like we were in there for a really long time. We went down all the aisles of the quilting cottons. We each bought fabric. I think I bought 6 or 7 pieces of fabric. Natalie bought, I think, 4. We were in there quite a while. We were in there with Violet. After we were done, we went back into the electronics store, the computer store, and the guys were in the back of the store. And they said they had only gone through like a third of the store. Is that right, Danny? They had
only, I think 2 sections. I think
they hadn't even looked through half of the store, and they wanted to stay there longer, but it was getting late. We hadn't eaten dinner yet. They probably could have been there for another 2 hours, so like 3 hours total maybe. It was crazy. I mean, we did go to a fabric store, but I mean, I don't know. WK says, I really didn't get that ironing a bag could be a big deal, but I ironed my last one, and it did make a noticeable difference. A demo would be great. I know it seems like a simple thing, and I've been there before. When you finish a bag, you want to just rip it off the sewing machine and start taking photos of it. But pressing it and pressing all the seams makes a gigantic difference. And I know because I can say when I look at photos of projects online, I can more or less tell when things have not been pressed and ironed after they've been finished. And I'm not saying that the bag does not look good. I'm saying in my head I can visualize it looking amazing. Amazing just by being pressed, and it's such a simple thing. So we'll talk about that soon on Sewcial Sunday. Tamara says, you and your family are wonderful friends to me here in Chicago. I think, Tamara, we have to go out to dinner soon to the White Chocolate, was it White Chocolate Factory? White Chocolate Grill. I've been looking forward to it, and it just sounds amazing. So Tamara lives out in the suburbs and not too far from us. Julie says, does cutting a curve with pinking shears have the same effect as cutting the V-shaped notches? So I feel that it does. I'm in the bad habit of cutting the notches out with my scissors, but using the pinking shears, and I have pinking shears myself, pinking shears will create the notches for you within the seam allowance as well. So you could do either one and you would be fine. Brenda says, so they say as you age, your world shrinks, so you end up with less friends. This type of community grows your world so you have more friends. I totally agree. And I was just thinking when Natalie was here over the weekend, Natalie's from Wisconsin, I feel like I have people that I know, and I'm going to use quotes for know because I feel like I know so many of you from the Facebook group and from the chats. I feel like I know so many of you that I could visit almost any state and country and have somebody that I could send an email or message to, hey, do you want to meet up for dinner or at a coffee shop? And I think I would have a friend to meet up with, maybe meeting up in real life for the first time. So I think that's amazing that we could have a community like this. And I know a lot of you feel the same way because I've spoken to others that have met people for the first time in person at a retreat or at a sewing event, and then all of a sudden they have new friends. Pamela says there's a lot of us out there that are pretty much friendless. I totally agree. I'm the same way. I have a really hard time making conversation with people, especially if it's like everyday conversation, like commenting on the weather or how's your kids doing. I have real trouble keeping up with that conversation, and I feel really awkward and like I don't fit in. That's really what I have to say about in real life. A lot of times I feel like I don't fit in, but with sewing, I fit in all of a sudden. Epi says, I'll be your friend. You're so cool. Thank you. I'm cool. I'm cool finally in my life.
We'll end it on that statement. You can't get better than that.
All right. Thank you so much for all the comments. It makes me, I can go to bed really happy tonight. Thank you so much. The giveaway for this week, let's get on to the giveaway. So I decided, we just got a lot of these wool mats in stock, and I decided to give away one of the large 17-inch wool mats. I'm holding it upside down. Sorry about that. So if you noticed tonight during my demonstration, we have a couple of these same exact wool mats in the studio. Although I was not using my iron on them tonight, they are meant for pressing on. They're nice, thick, half-inch wool mats. This is the prize for the giveaway tonight. All you have to do to enter tonight's giveaway is let me know the answer to this question in the comments. I will draw one random winner at the end of the day this Saturday, and I will announce the winner's name on next Sunday's show. Answer this question: how do you store your patterns? So I'm talking about either paper patterns or PDF patterns. Do you store all the PDFs in a certain folder on your computer? Do you use some cloud storage? Do you store your paper patterns in a filing cabinet? What do you do to store your patterns? Just let me know in the comments, and I'll pick one winner for the woolly mat next Sunday during the show, and I'll announce the winner there. So thank you so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday. I'll see you again next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Have a great week and happy sewing.